If you want to see an incredible motorsport weekend, fly to the beautiful city of Munich, catch a train to Schwandorf via Rasenberg, and hire a taxi to Wackersdorf. There is nowhere in the world quite like Pro Kart Raceland. Since 1997, Germany's rising stars of motorsport have tamed this circuit and moved on to glory. But with the FIA Karting paddock in town, the racing folk is treated to phenomenal food, exciting local culture, and a thirst and passion for racing, both past and present, sharing the road with some of the greatest racing drivers in the world. They may not all be household names, yet, but no drivers will work harder than the FIA Karting World Championship competitors. In KZ, KZ2 and the KZ2 Masters programs, drivers will push their tyres, chassis, engines and bodies to the absolute limit. 140 kilometers an hour top speed, 2G in the fastest corners, and elevation changes that make the driver feel they're on a bucking bronco. Since 1983, the Gearbox World Championship contests have nurtured some of the sport's most amazing racers. Touring car legends Gabriele Tarquini and Fabrizio Giovanardi, Monaco Grand Prix winner Jarno Trulli, and reigning Formula One world champion Max Verstappen all won this incredible event. Who will be next, and how will it all unfold? There's only one way to find out. David Treveloff will take us on a flying lap at Pro Kart Raceland, barely turning through the first kinks off the home straight and then flat through the fastest bend on the course. Heavy braking for the hairpin, a common overtaking zone, which then leads into an open left-hander which builds in speed. Back on the brakes again for the next downhill left hairpin, another good passing opportunity. The next sequence of right-handers are important to perfect in order to build momentum. But then the next tight chicane is quite essential to be precise for. You can lose a lot of time with even the slightest error. Then comes the first of 4 parallel straights. The first left hairpin is fairly tight but perfect for the calculated risk taker. Straight 2 leads into a right hairpin, which if you get right, leads onto the satisfying and exhilarating third straight. Up and over the crest and plunge the kart into the apex of the final turn, opening out on the exit and feeding you back to the home straight. It's a popular venue and the perfect circuit for the World Championship. Racing drivers aged 35 and over can now relive their glory days, take on a new challenge, or just relish in the pinnacle of the toughest discipline in motorsport. The KZ2 Masters has exploded in popularity over the last 12 months, with 70 competitors appearing at Wackersdorf, excited at the news that they'll also have a European Championship to fight for in 2024, alongside the International Super Cup. Daniel Bray of New Zealand has bagged pole position for the final, ahead of legends Davide Forè and Alessandro Menetti. But with a long final ahead, and the likes of Mirko Mazzoni, Andre Nicastro and Riccardo Nallon snapping at their heels, this promises to be one of the closest races of the season. At the start, Davide Forè beat Daniel Bray off the line, with Menetti close behind. Mazzoni and Nallon did well to get away strong, but Nicastro dropped back. At least he was higher up than Thomas Denel, who had enough of a delay on the opening lap to drop to the tail of the field, and despite restarting, remained there for the rest of the race. Bray was busy defending Menetti in the attempts to hold on to second position, whilst Denel was recovering ahead of a very long race. Menetti tried everything to pass Bray on the opening tour, but a mistimed effort on the second lap allowed Thomas Misch to move into third position. Menetti wasn't going to settle for that and moved back ahead half a lap later, heading into the third sector. Then came the devastating blow of the race for the fans down under. Daniel Bray was slowing and the painful agony was realised. The New Zealander was swept past by the whole field and his dreams of an FIA Karting World title would have to wait another year. Having started from pole, it seemed unbelievably cruel. Rasmus Haugaard worked his magic by passing Emanuele Simonetti into turn 4. And Sven Salzman took advantage on the exit to repeat the feat. Meanwhile, Bray was trundling back to the pits and into retirement, a devastating end to a phenomenal week. Salzman then made an overtake on Jindro Vascher before Nicastro caught and passed Salzman himself. Then, inexplicably, karts started littering the sidelines one by one. First, Gregory Lidea on the Sodi kart. Then, unbelievably, Nicastro was next, as the Tony kart driver had crashed out. Samuel Gaffner was the third driver to retire on the same lap. Simonetti was feeling brave and ambitious, but his move on Riccardo Nallon was not quite strong enough to finish. Marco Pagani would then take a black flag for ignoring a technical flag. It took the main body of the race for Minetti to reel in Forè to duel for the lead, but it was plain to see he was as up for the battle as he had been in his youth. Antonelli driver Andrea Spagni was the next to pull into the pits, and last year's pole position man Jeroen Bosch wasn't far behind him. 5 laps to go, and the fans were treated to an epic squabble between Forè and Minetti, two of the greats. Minetti almost made it, but Forè moves over for no one. In the next corner, Minetti tried again, and that raw determination to win returned. Minetti wasn't happy, but he had to try again. Simonetti and Nallon continued their own conflict until it all fell apart with a collision. Misch was guaranteed a podium, and Riccardo Nallon would inherit P4 ahead of Alessio Lamartina. Minetti fought valiantly to catch Forè and knew he only had one more chance to beat him out of the final corner. He worked as hard as he could and squeezed everything out of the orange CRG, but Forè would clinch the win and the International Super Cup by just 15 thousandths of a second, one of the closest finishes to a final in FIA Karting history. Davide Forè returned to the top for the first time since 2006, much to the delight of the fans and his Render Motorsport team. Minetti was a valiant second ahead of Thomas Misch, with Nallon, Lamartina and Roberto Profico finishing ahead of Haugard and Vascher, with Thierry Del Rey and Sirio Costantini completing the top 10. As Misch, Minetti and Forè climbed the podium at Wackersdorf, FIA Karting could reflect on just how successful KZ2 Masters has become. 70 entries from all over the world, legends of the sport returning and dueling to the line with a photo finish, and in the knowledge that 2024 will be a full campaign.
It was a very tough race, very hard race because I know Alessandro was very quick. Probably was the quicker of all the weekend. Fortunately, I did a fantastic beginning of race, and then for sure when it started to coming back to me, it was very hard, very difficult. I must be very focused, don't lose completely the brain, and maintain the concentration for the last part of the race. And Alessandro is a great champion. Was one of my idols when I was young, and for me it's fantastic to be here again and race at this level again with him. So I believe everybody enjoyed the race for sure.
I knew before to come here that Davide for sure was my point, my target, and he was. I think today we show a lot of talent, even if we are 50 years old. We had performance in the past when we were driver. Now, I don't know Davide, maybe I'm hobby driver and now. But you know, I think the people here have a good enjoy. They saw a good level of karting.
I would like to thank everyone for this amazing race. This weekend has been very difficult for me. We missed out on qualifying with the 18th lap time, which was far from my initial expectations. Since I had done very little testing before, as I had been retaken only 2 weeks prior to the race, finishing on this podium alongside two karting legends that I spent years watching as a kid feels very satisfying. Both were way too strong for me today, no doubt about that. But being with them is a huge pride. I gave it everything in the final. Physically speaking, 26 laps is very hard. This has been a challenge for me, but I never gave up until the end. My congratulations go again to Davide and Alessandro, both older men than me. Well done to them.
When I started in 1982 in karting, I cannot imagine that I will arrive at this. We are a private team. There is a big work during the year. We do around 350, 340 days of track in a year, always. We can only this night have a party, but no party because we travel to come back home. but also I can say that I cannot stay without this. I live of this, so I'm really proud of all.
Over 100 drivers from all 6 continents have travelled to compete in the KZ2 final, the FIA Karting World Cup. And in Wackersdorf, there's a chance for a bit of history, as Akbar Ibrahim, the FIA Karting president, and Alexander Geyer of the German Karting Federation present the finalists with their medals for reaching this stage. There's a sense of expectancy, as Wackersdorf hosts this prestigious event for the first time since 2017. To keep the travelling German fans happy, Niels Tröger of the Maranello SRP team has placed the local favourites in pole position. But with Prema drivers Alex Powell and Kia Nakamura-Berta, and serial contenders Daniel Vasile, Maxim Orlov and Thomas Imborg right behind him on the grid, winning at home is going to be incredibly difficult. Tröger couldn't have asked for a better launch as he surged in front of Powell off the line. Orlov had a terrible start and plunged back through the pack, whilst Nakamura-Berta and Vasile challenged Powell from the 4th corner, the Romanian moving up to 3rd. There was, of course, an inevitable first lap victim, and this time it was Cristian Bertucca, the highest ranked driver in the race, out on lap 1. But then, chaos. Further round the opening lap, Matteo Zanchi clattered into the back of Kia Nakamura-Berta and they both went off. The latter recovered, the former would head for the pits. Local hero Daniel Stell would then splutter to a tragic halt at the same time. And incredibly, former European champion Andrea Dalle was also out after an incident involving Matthias Spergel and Brandon Nilsson. Spergel would recover to finish last and Nilsson would return to the pits. Then Maxim Orlov would crash out. It was pandemonium, the likes of which were rare even for a KZ2 World Cup final. 8 retirements on the opening 2 laps. Now there was only 28 left of the 36 that started, with 24 laps to go, as Robert Kinderwarter would also cruise to retirement with damage. The race was finally settling down, and Tröger and Powell were a long way clear of Vasile, Imborg and Jean Nomblo. But looking after tyres was just as important as challenging for the lead. Alexander Schmitz, meanwhile, would join the 8 men out of the race, as his Tony car could go no further. Tense scenes on the sidelines, the strategic battle of when to push and when to conserve. Tröger and Powell seemed to be a match for each other. But the German's teammate and cousin, Tim Tröger, had hit trouble. Would it be a bad omen for the closing laps? Spurred on by his mechanic, Tröger continued to ease his way into each lap, extending enough of a gap to be relatively comfortable. Vasile was safe and sound in 3rd, ahead of the 2 Sodis of Imborg and Nomblo, the carnage of the opening 2 laps rather spoiling what could have been a much closer and epic contest. Nakamura-Berta made a sensational recovery, catching and passing Alessio Piccini to finish an astonishing 6th place under the circumstances in his final karting race, for now. So after many German races, including Michael Schumacher and Sebastian Vettel, had tried and failed to win a world karting title, Niels Tröger ended the wait and finished the job in fine style. He may not be a world champion by official name, but winning the World Cup is as good as it gets in KZ2. And beating 2 of the best races of 2023 on home soil must make it all the more sweet for Niels Tröger, the new king of Wackersdorf. It was time for the celebrations to begin at last, and for the raw emotions to bubble over, both behind the wheel and beside the track. Powell and Vasile completed the podium, with Imborg and Nomblo ahead of Nakamura-Berta. Thomas Stolchemanis kept the visiting Latvians happy in 7th, in front of Piccini and the 2 Spanish talents, Genis Civico and Adrian Maliero. Winning the final during the FIA Karting World Championship weekend is special. Winning it against over 100 drivers, even more so. Winning it on home soil must make it the most amazing feeling of all. For Powell and Vasile, their time will surely come. For Tröger, it's already here. And what a hero he has become.
It has been a tough weekend so far, and also the final was really tricky as it was 26 laps. It was hot under the suit, also under the helmet, and I just kept pushing. I saw my mechanic who showed me I have to push, and so I did, and managed the tires, tried to make everything right, and I think it's just great. To be honest, I'm still not able to realize what happened today, and I'm just so happy for the result and thankful for everybody who supported me, especially to Mike, all the team, to Fabian, my engine specialist, and to my mechanic Mark, and also my dad and everybody who supports me.
Yeah, I mean, it was an extremely long final. Difficult to manage the tires throughout to stay consistent. But I mean, in reality, it's been a super long weekend as well. You always had to be picture perfect. At the end of the day, it's 7 heats plus a super heat. Plus the final, you can't go wrong at any time. So a bit disappointed, but to be honest, I think we should be proud of the work that we've done. We stayed consistent the whole way throughout the race weekend. We were always there, always fighting, which is the most important part. You know, you can't win all of them, but as long as you're there and showing that you and the team can be competitive week in, week out, that's the most important thing for me.
It was a crazy season for me, let's say that. But yeah, a little bit bittersweet that we didn't have a great pace in the final, unfortunately, to make it to these guys hell of a life. But yeah, happy to, after the crash yesterday, to make it to the podium, and we did a small comeback, but yeah, still good to do it, and we are happy. We are happy for the pace we show.
Yeah, for sure, it was very special. We are fighting for that title for so many years, and finally Niels give us those championship, and yeah, I'm speechless. I'm absolutely happy, and yeah, it has been such a great weekend for us.
There is no tougher race in motorsport than the Karting World Championship final. Ayrton Senna, Michael Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso and Sir Lewis Hamilton have won 23 Formula One world titles between them. None of them became a karting world champion. 10 years ago, Max Verstappen did, and it's made him a global superstar. So who will win in 2023? There could be 2 German winners in one day, as David Trevelov seeks to replicate Niels Tröger's win from pole. But Paolo Ippolito, Emilion Denner and Stan Pex are all waiting in the wings. There's also former champions in KZ like Jeremy Iglesias and KZ2 like Tom Loyer to worry about. Anything could happen. The drag race to turn 1 was ruthless as Ippolito and Trefelov duelled intensely, which allowed Denner to pass them both. A dive up the inside of the Frenchman put Ippolito back in front, but the battle would fizzle out in a dramatic incident in turn 5. Who touched who first was impossible to determine, but it eliminated a whole squadron of potential world champions. Trefelov, Loyer and Denner were the biggest names to fall. Johan Sogel would recover, but Danilo Albanese was also out with damage. A bitter disappointment for the European champion. The Frenchmen Tom Loyer and Emilion Denner were enraged and dismayed. And their countryman Jeremy Iglesias would join them in retirement with a broken CRG. Trefelov was out too, but would later be disqualified anyway for a technical non-conformity. Michele Fontana and Lenny Ried were also out, and it wasn't long before Senna van Waalstein had mechanical problems that put him out of the race too. The Sodikart dream of the World Championship was over for another year. Lemberg would spin out at the final corner, but would recover to finish last. AJ Myers of the United States wasn't so lucky. His impressive performance was finished. Reigning world champion Victor Gustafsson had not given up on his dreams of winning for a second year in a row, and he made his first big move on Matteo Vigano. There was a battle amongst the new boys to KZ as well, with Luigi Coluccio passing Artur Carbonell. There would be a sad end to the race for former world champion in OK, Pedro Hiltbrand, as he clashed with his Birolart teammate Giuseppe Palomba. Both men were out instantly, and two Swiss drivers, Tony Kart racer Jean Liette and Sony Kart ace Johan Sogel, joined them shortly afterwards. Gustafsson was a man on a mission, storming ahead of Stan Pex relentlessly, trying to catch Ippolito. Did he have enough time? Arthur Thuam's time had run out, as he now ensured there were only 22 drivers left in a brutal final. Ippolito was out in front, enjoying his well-built advantage, but he knew that Gustafsson wouldn't let him rest easy. The two men who blitzed the OK and KZ World titles in 2019, Lorenzo Travasanuto and Marijn Kramers, were enjoying the battle on circuit. Second time lucky, Travasanuto made it work, whilst Coluccio had moved ahead of Adrien Renaudin and then passed Kramers as well. Sadly, Marijn Kramers' race ended heading into the final lap at the final corner. Try as he might, Gustafsson didn't have enough laps to make a bid for the World Championship, and so after all his own hardships, Paolo Ippolito could finally take his place in the FIA Karting Hall of Fame as World Champion. He is now one of the few men to win both the European and World Championships, giving Kart Republic both their first FIA Gearbox crowns at this level, something that team principal Dino Chiesa nor Paolo Ippolito will ever forget. Gustafsson and Stan Pex joined him on the podium, with Vigano 4th, Lorenzo Camplese 5th and Jorrit Pex in 6th. Francesco Salenta finished ahead of his teammate Travasanuto, with Coluccio and Renaudin following in close pursuit. It's been a demanding but rewarding 18 months for Paolo Ippolito, who can now step out of the shadows and into the limelight. European and World Champion. Gustafsson knows what it takes to be World Champion, and surely Stan Pex will one day in the future. But as the KZ heroes get busy with the fizzy, the championship has been as dramatic and sensational as ever.
I'm the world champion of this year. It's amazing. Maybe I didn't realize the great result we did today, but feeling is good. Everyone in the team did a really good job, including me. We didn't make mistake, and after a lot of work, that's the result we need to pay all the effort of all the people inside the team. So I'm really happy.
Yeah, obviously it's been a tough week. To be honest, I've done a bit too many mistakes. But you know, we showed in the final that we were the fastest today. Without maybe one less mistake, I would have been champion today also. But that's how it goes. I think I won a lot of hearts today, driving like I did in that final. So I can't be angry or sad. You know, obviously I was also a bit lucky in the start, getting through all the chaos. But in the end, we showed what package we have, and we just need to keep working on this. Hopefully, also next year I can be on this podium.
In the end, my start in the final was not super. I lost 2-3 position. Maybe in the end it was a bit of luck, because the guys in front of me crashed, so I just couldn't avoid them. And then I was P2, but I could not keep up in the beginning with Paolo. So he took a gap, and in the end I managed to make my race and to finish as good as possible. Every year I'm very fast and I'm always there. I just need also a bit of luck and probably this time a bit more speed. But once I will get there. And all the hard work will pay off once, so I keep going.
In 5 years we perform quite well every time. I am so happy for sure for Paolo, but even for Stan, because he's always around and finally is important in the World Championship. When it's one final, it's the final. You can win, you can lose. You need for sure luck also to win. And we have the star in our lineament this time for the KZ and less for the KZ2. Thanks to everybody. We keep working hard. We have a World Championship in 2-3 weeks. We'll see for the OKJ.
For a career that we thought had reached its peak, it's wonderful to witness Davide Forè back again as a winner of a 6th FIA Karting World title, 17 years after he won the World Cup at Marienburg in Super ICC and his World Championship crown at Angeville in Formula A. Not bad for a man who made his karting debut nearly 40 years ago. And with the European Championship commencing in KZ2 Masters next year, it's clear to see that Davide Forè isn't done yet. For the fans in Germany, it's wonderful to see history made as Niels Tröger becomes the first German to win an FIA Karting world title since Bernd Schneider became the Junior World Cup winner back in 1980. Maranello SRP finally win their first world crown too, and they'll all be back for more in 2024. And Paolo Ippolito now joins the FIA Karting Elite by becoming world champion. The OK and OK Junior World titles will play out at Franciacorta in October, but for Paolo Ippolito and Kart Republic, the party has only just begun.